House to Home, presented by Remax Diamond Realty.
I have been waiting exactly 7 days to do this segment because my dear friends Liz and Gina from Remax Diamond Realty Guam are here. And of course, we told you last week that there was the first public hearing that these two have been chopping at the bit to discuss about parental subdivisions and about the possibility where we could finally be able to develop on property that is in that basically no develop zone. So, ladies, take it away. You guys were at the public hearing. What are your initial thoughts and how was it?
Well, the public hearing, I think the first segment of the public hearing, they had Guam EPA and other government entities testify regarding their stance about development in the North. And of course, coming from a government standpoint, Guam EPA put out a lot of statistics on how it would affect our groundwater. And the interesting part is they're putting statistics on the pollution level and how in developing more in the northern area would pollute the groundwater. Of course, they went over their numbers and whatever, and then they allowed for us, the rest of us, to come forward to speak. But that part of the hearing there are two parts of the hearing. There was one earlier, an oversight hearing, which was pretty dominated by the government positioning their stance. But it seemed like it was preparatory to have that in place before we had the public hearing in the afternoon at 1:30 to go over it. But then again, even at the public hearing, they allowed again the government to go forward and speak before they allowed us to come forward on the second panel. And I'll tell you, the morning session ate up all the time. In fact, Gina and I left around lunchtime and it was still going on. And then in the afternoon, when we came back, I don't think the hearing ended until what, Gina, 7 at night?
When we left at 6, that's something. It was an eye opener to see how long when the legislature's in session.
At the same time, though, ladies, I would say that is kind of indicative of how many people on either side of the argument, want to voice their own position or their own response to this issue.
Yeah, exactly. And the government, of course, put in their position about how allowing more homes to be built would pollute the water system. But I think David Damian, who's also a realtor, and he actually put in place a nitrate system, and he's been doing this for like 13 years, which has been frustrating for him because he's proven that the system works. And of course, testifying that he's got a system that works. So why would there be any opposition to it? But I love his analogy where he said, if you took drops of water over a carpet, how long is it going to take for that water to penetrate at the bottom of the carpet versus taking a bucket of water and pouring it over the carpet, and how that will speed up in terms of getting to the bottom of the carpet. But he was using the analogy in reference to septic systems in the north versus leaking sewer lines, and that he has videos, and I mean, from his history and his dad's history of working in the wastewater system, he knows for a fact that a lot of the pollution probably would stem from leaking sewer lines. So that was very interesting. But again, Gina and I, of course, we found that the senators had some issues about a free-for-all. And Gina explained to them that there are different parts of the law that addresses that, and that you can't lump it all together to say that if we did allow for the nitrate systems to allow for people to develop in the northern area over the aquifer, that that it's supposed to help the system avoid the pollution that they're looking at. But Gina can talk about the two disparities about parental subdivisions and about decedent maps. That is another issue we're fighting on.
Okay, and Gina, how loud did your voice get? Did you have to kind of center yourself?
No, she was very good and very factual.
Right on. Were you
But
were you pleased at how much time you were allotted to speak, and did you felt you got every thought that you had, out, and did you articulate that?
I was pleased at the fact that we finally have an opportunity to speak about this issue. Because we've been wanting this bill. We've been advocating for the longest time to just update our sewer and septic tank systems, which is this type 4. I've never quite understood the idea that if EPA is asking for this system, and we've had a person here on Guam who brought it in 2010, and he has been testing this. This is not like an indoor system, but it is the type of system that EPA has been promoting. So this is the part that I can't wrap my head around this. Okay, if the legislature is agreeing with EPA that we need to do something to protect the waterlands, they're all seem to be in agreement. And let's please accept the fact that the consumers out there and the realtors out there and business people, there is nobody out there that I've spoken to that says, hey, listen, my goal is not to protect the environment. I just want to build houses everywhere I can. And who cares about the environment? I've never met a person who has said that to me. But the problem we have is, even though we keep talking about protecting the environment, the mechanism that we need to put into the law so that that can happen, which is the type 4 facility. Now, which particular brand or which particular model, we'll get to that once the law says it's allowed. That's the part I don't understand, is if everyone's in agreement, and I guess this boils down to politics, if everyone's in agreement, and this cannot be a Republican or a Democrat issue, and it cannot be an environmentalist versus non-environmental people. It isn't about that at all. It's just about modernizing the law so that we can go and purchase these units, right? Why has it taken this amount of time? Part of the thing that I found challenging is David Demion's been working on this for almost 13 years. And so each time we've needed him to come, he's like, guys, at one point he says, Gina, he actually told me, Gina, you're wasting your time. I've been trying to get them to approve this system for 13 years. And if they're not willing to look, the system has been monitored by EPA and by WERI, which they're the ones who monitor these types of things for EPA. He said, if I've been doing this for 13 years and they have not written the law to make it possible to use the system, then what do you think the problem is? Because they keep saying they're concerned about the environment, but they're not doing anything. And that's the part I don't understand, because EPA can't write laws. You and I can't write laws. Nobody can write laws. The legislature writes the laws, and they are the ones that say we're concerned. If you're so concerned, then pass this bill. Let's move forward and get this done. And it's not a free-for-all. And that's what Liz, I'm sorry, Jason, I keep interrupting you to say something. That's what Liz was bringing up, is that, one of the concerns EPA brought up, and I say it's a valid concern. They said once this system goes into place, it's a free for all. Now all the developers can use this type 4 facility. But, I believe that is not correct, because when you go into, there is the zoning law and the building law, and subdivision law. And those two things they're not written exactly the same. So one of the issues we've had also is the fact that parental subdivisions and decedent estates. So if you got your property through the court, that those two things currently, not always, but now since 2019, they're not being treated equally, because if you have a parental map, you can build on 929. If you have a decedent map, you cannot. But that is a distinct part of the subdivision law that has nothing to do with, they feel it'll be a free for all. Now developers can cut up a 50 lot parcel and use type 4 facilities. But I believe that is not correct, because once you go over 5 lots, that goes into a different part of the law which triggers the fact that you have to go through Guam Land Use Commission. You have to go through a more vigorous process. The subdivision law goes into effect, which dictates Chapter 5, which dictates the utilities, the sidewalks, the infrastructure. All of those are not applicable to below 5 lots. And that's where I think we've had a misunderstanding of the law. And I think we can work that out. And if we do work that out, then I'm really hoping that all the senators, every single one of them, endorse this bill and move it forward quickly. Let's upgrade our septic tank systems.
Well, okay, so Liz, there's an interesting distinction to be made, and I appreciate how Gina brought that up, because now we've talked about the people that understand the science behind the issue, and we've obviously talked about the people who understand the policy as it's written and as it's proposed, or as it's not written, I guess is the idea, right? Were there landowners there that were pleading their case, and the people who are directly affected and are unable to build?
Well, we had Mr. Santos, who was affected. By the way, Mr. Santos, can you imagine being told, oh, Jason,
We've had him here on the show, right?
no, he was there. He testified. Not only that, there were people on Zoom who owned property that also testified, but they were able to testify much later because the hearing went on. But imagine if I said, Jason, you have a piece of property. You can't build on it, Jason. You can use it for green space. Or, Jason, farm on it. You don't have a house, but you can't build, but farm. Use
and I'm
it
being
for
taxed.
farming. And you're not a farmer. Come on, give me a break. And this was told to Mr. Santos by a senator. Oh, you can't build. You can only use it to farm. And Mr. Santos wanted to build because he has a daughter that's he wants to build for his daughter.
That's right.
Who are we to deny you the ability to build on your property? We really need to get this out to the public. Please, if you have questions about this issue, call Gina or myself so we can give you more information. We need more of the public, especially those who live in the South that receive properties from parental subdivision or decedent maps. And if you're unfamiliar with it, we will educate you, because there needs to be more public outcry to get the legislature to move on this bill. In fact, John went through a chronology of events on how we kept, as the Guam Association wrote this, how we kept meeting with the senator to try to get this bill passed. After 4 years of these different meetings, nothing was done. And then we brought it to Senator Chris Duenas, who finally introduced the bill to correct the disparity. So hopefully, again, a plea from the community to the senators to get on board and move it so that we can move forward to help not only our community, but it would also help our drinking water.
People, please listen to Liz, because you guys are making my friend lose her voice. She's going hoarse, like, pleading this case. Like, Gina,
Jason, you were asking about people who, landowners. There were a few landowners that came, but I'm telling you, and I just want to acknowledge the fact that the senators were there. I mean, we showed up at 9 a.m. because we wanted to participate with that part of the hearing. And it was basically EPA. Yeah, it was EPA, Public Health, and Guam Waterworks. And they were there. Listening to what they're testifying about, they were actually talking about the fact that there are chemicals that have been found in the water, and it's been on the air. Everyone's reporting about it. There are banned chemicals that are in our water system. And they were talking about the fact, it's an oversight hearing talking about the fact that's in there. So not sewage, not nitrate. They were talking about banned chemicals that have been found in certain water wells. I wish they would have been more transparent, and instead of saying water well 13, water well 34, I wish they would have said water well in Gigo on this street. That way we could be more aware of what they're talking about. Of course, they know what they're saying, but it's their lingo. But the thing so that's what they were talking about in the morning. And then in the afternoon, it was the hearing for this particular, bill. But what I want to say is, my gosh, when these senators are in session, they showed up at 9 a.m. When we left at 6, they were still sitting there. There was still testimony going on. And the bill on the vape, the bill on the vape law was the next hearing. So they must have slept there that night and I was exhausted. When we walked out at 6 p.m., I was just exhausted. And I can imagine these senators. So, I just want to acknowledge that I know they're working hard. Just because we don't agree with some of their positions doesn't mean we don't appreciate the hard work that they're putting into all of this.
The other thing, Jason, I want to bring up is we keep talking about extending sewer lines. So if we talked about, okay, there's solutions. If you're talking about the pollution, what is the solution? One would be repairing the leaking tank, the leaking sewer lines, getting that repaired, and extending sewer lines to areas that were unable to get sewer, and then you're denying them building permits. Then get the sewer line to them. Now, from what I gather in talking to people, that we probably may need because the fund, we have the development fund that people pay into when they put in their water, they build their water or their sewer lines. But that development fund will need some legislation to dictate how that funding will be used. So anyway, I think there's still more work that we're going to be doing to try to get things moving in the legislature, to get certain things done to help our community and to correct some of the problems that we're encountering.
And believe it or not, even if it doesn't seem like it, this is progress to a certain degree. This, maybe in a small amount, but we are making steps that weren't being made before.
Right, but I want to make sure that the distinction between a development and, as Gina put it there, I think we may need to send some of that documentation to the legislature so they have a better understanding that there is a distinction between the two, and it's not going to be a free-for-all in terms of development. A lot of things were brought up that parental subdivisions, properties were given to each of us from our parents, but EPA is talking about that there are different names that are not local names. Excuse me, Guam is a melting pot. If your name is Mr. Lee or Cho, you are part of the local community. But
or Campos,
but to discriminate and say, well, these are all developers that are building up north. Hey, developers have children. They live on our island. And I guess the key I want to bring up, if these homes are built anyway by developers, who are they going to? They're not going to take the home and move it to China, or they're not going to take the home and move it to California. The home remains intact on Guam. And who is going to occupy that home? It's a Chamorro or a Guamanian that will be buying that home to occupy. And it's adding to our shortage of home inventory. So anyway, we get
this is a snapshot of some of the testimony, not only that you were considering presenting, but also many, many, many others. And how crazy is it, you guys, that of the three of us on this panel, of all the years we've gone like crazy, Liz is now the irate one, and Gina is the calm voice of reason. How the tables have turned.
Yep.
Okay, but we are far from completion on this issue. So make sure to keep following our playlist right here on YouTube, because there's a lot more to come with this. So ladies, thank you for fighting the good fight.
Thank you, Jason. And we need the community. The next time we have another hearing on this, we really need the community to come out, because you know what? Right now, you may not think it affects you, but once you give up a right, it eventually will come to your door. Maybe not today, but it will end up at your doorstep. So let's all fight for the fact that everybody should be treated equally. It doesn't matter if you're parental, doesn't matter if you went to probate to get your land. It shouldn't, the way you can use your property, it shouldn't be different.
Yeah, we're fighting for property rights. And if you want more information on this particular issue, please call us. We'd be happy to give you the information. And we're asking people, write to your senators. Of course, once you get the information on the issue, write to your senators. Hey, support this bill because it's going to help you.
And please, when you do so call Liz and Gina down there at Remax Diamond Realty Guam, everybody. And please, as they said, send an email to the senators. And while you're at it, stop by the pharmacy and buy my friend Liz some like sucrets or halls or something like that, because she's really losing her voice, you guys. I don't like seeing her like this.
She's been working hard, Jason.
You both have, as have your colleagues and everybody affected by this. So, ladies, thank you very much, and keep fighting the good fight.
Thank you.
House to Home, presented by RE/MAX Diamond Realty.